Countess Heron had even held her tongue during Harriet's second season because she had been so busy planning the wedding of her younger daughter Imelda. But by season number 3, Harriet's mother started voicing her opinions, loudly. The nagging had gotten so bad that Harriet had taken to spending as much of the year as possible in her parents' London house, even after they retired to the country. But at the holidays, Harriet had no choice but to return home and face her mother's disappointment, and more disturbingly, her pity. Until Madison's invitation had come by the evening post in early December, ornately embossed, neatly addressed, and stamped with the Walsham family coat of arms, it was the perfect excuse to defect from her family's customary holiday gathering. For who could turn down an invitation from the Marchioness of Clydon, one of the Haute Tonne's most sought-after hostesses? Thereby, on December the 24th, Christmas Eve, Harriet found herself not at her family's country estate in Nottingham, but standing in the great hall of Carcliffe Castle, face to face with a medieval-era suit of armour. Madison was running around busily seeing to last-minute details. Eager to stay out of her way, but also too restless to stay cooped up in the lovely room she had been assigned, Harriet wandered through the ground-floor rooms of Carcliffe Castle. It was a castle in reality, not just name, complete with a spiral staircase leading up a turret on the northeast corner and cavernous rooms with tall ceilings and heirloom wall tapestries, and, of course, the aforementioned suits of armour. Harriet stumbled across the front parlour and instantly detected her friend's unique touch. The room had been completely updated. Instead of cool stone, the walls were covered in a bright turquoise blue damask. A rich ruby-red carpet, with the same blue from the walls reflected in the border motif, was plush and thick beneath her feet. The room was furnished with bright cherrywood chairs and a matching writing desk. An amply stuffed sofa and chaise were grouped around an ornately carved fireplace. The fireplace appeared to be the only remnant of the room's medieval design. Of course, the Walsham servants had built up a roaring fire. Fires burned in every room, Harriet noticed as she explored. It must take a small forest to keep the immense stone building warm and cosy during the snowy winter season. Her book tucked under her arm, Harriet picked a plump, welcoming wing-back chair that faced the window. Settling in, she congratulated herself on her choice of location for a mid-morning respite. Ensconced in the corner of Madison's snug parlour, she had the warmth from the fire at her left and a view of the snow-covered grounds on her right. Harriet popped open her book and started to read. A maid found her about an hour later as she made her rounds stoking the fires. "Hello, miss." The maid smiled sweetly, curtsying and then making her way over to the fire. Harriet watched her with a smile on her face. All of the servants she had met since arriving at Carcliffe Castle seemed so imperturbably happy. She wondered if holiday bonuses had been distributed early this year. The fire crackled as the maid added new logs, but another sound caught Harriet's attention. She turned back to the window. Over the crest of the hill, a few hundred yards in the distance, a carriage appeared. How could she possibly have heard that? It was much too far away. The windows were closed tightly against the December chill. It must have been a coincidence. She hadn't really heard anything. She happened to look over at just the right moment. "Miss?" Harriet turned abruptly back to the maid. "Pardon me?" "I asked if you'd like some tea, miss," the maid said, her brow slightly furrowed. "Oh, yes, of course, I am sorry. I was distracted." "That tends to happen here, miss," the maid said, her brow smoothing as she smiled knowingly. "Here?" Harriet slipped her finger inside her book to hold her page. The conversation had taken an odd turn. "At Carcliffe Castle. It can be a bit mysterious." The maid stood up from where she knelt at the fireplace, dusting off her hands on her starched white apron. "Shall I bring some scones as well with the tea?" she asked nonchalantly, as if references to mysterious castles were completely commonplace. Harriet nodded slowly. "Yes, that would be nice. Thank you." "Ada," the young woman supplied. "Thank you, Ada."